good evening to the Thursday night edition of No Life Beekeeping Chat. Good to see everybody. Amir was first in today, and then we got Stuffy, Steve, Phil, Russell, Randy, Tar Heel Beekeeper, Carl, good to see you. Ed, good to see you. I'm trying to scroll down. Randy, 41 pounds of goldenrod honey tonight. Good deal, man. Tracy, good to see you. Man, everybody's here. Good. Everybody that counts is here for the moment. And the link is up there. But Ed, while you're here, look what came today. Let's see what I got, Ed. Let's see. I got my little scissors here. Let me see if I can just score this and open it. I saved this specially for you, Ed, to open it. Possibly it's good things. Hey, Mite, good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see, give it a little clip there. What Bob get in the Amazon package today? Ta-da! Hey, Ian, good to see you, bud. Look. A tripod. Everybody's been complaining that I don't use a tripod. I've got another one. Not saying that I'll use it, but I got one. So now we can't complain about that part. So we definitely have. I've got one though. I've got another one. It's just in the other room, and it's a little bit less heavy duty than that one, I think. So hopefully it works good. Larry got his tablets today. Good deal. Ian, I need you to send me your address. I'm going to send you something that you need to try out. But shoot, guys, I lost another colony today. So went out there and wax moss. So wax moss got one of my colonies and no. Yeah, they're tablets. They are tablets. We'll say that. Hold on, I got dinging going on. Let me mute that. But we're gonna get you some tablets sent out so you can try them out, see what you think. I think they work well for me. So they're super simple. I saw your video today where you were doing the oxalic acid vaporization. Got a couple of vaporizers there going full tilt. And guys, don't leave me hanging. There's a link right up there. You can click the link at any moment and come in and have a chat. I'm glad everybody's putting their tablets up. It's I'll be curious to see everybody's results. It seems Phil's having good success with them. Chris is having some might drop off of his. I had great success on mine. I saw that Earl's got one open feed in his. And it's they're on it. So that's a good thing. Good thing. Todd, you're always cooking, man. You've been cooking for like 3 days now. 3 days straight. Brad hadn't shown up tonight yet. He probably hadn't got the notification yet. And Charlie, he's not here yet. So I'm actually playing slots on the other computer over here, the other screen. So see if we can hit the bonus, the big bonus. But right now, got a long way to go to get there. But what's going on in y'all's beekeeping worlds nowadays? I'm pretty much just trying to get mine fat and happy. A lot of them have good weight on them. I've got a little 2-framer out there still doing it. They had a ton of beetles in them in the 2-framer, so I banged the beetles out and squashed them as many as I could. So it's getting kind of past time for them to do their thing. So trying to work on that. But hopefully, I've been working with Mite, and he's got a ton of different products I'm trying to work on getting for the website. He's got some really cool queen rearing nukes that I'm gonna try to get, and some other equipment too. So just building the site up. I saw he added another supplier out in Texas, so that's a good thing. And it's just another day in paradise for that. I've got a week from tomorrow is my scheduled last day at my job. So we'll see how that goes. They did kind of counter offer me, but they didn't officially counter offer me a deal. So I'm still kind of waiting to hear back on that to see what they're going to do, or if they're going to do anything. They might just let me walk. Which either way, I mean, I was prepared for that. Yeah, you got to make sure there's no wax on there at all. Yeah, I've said that too. If they were a little bit thinner, I don't know if he's got a way to tool them a little bit thinner or not. But that, and the only other issue that I've heard is the packaging. It's not the package itself, it's the way that the top piece sticks or does not stick to the plastic. Those are the only two things. It doesn't really affect the tablet, but it does affect they get banged around and thrown around in the back of UPS trucks and stuff like that. So one Appy tab, yeah, they come in packs of 10, Richard. They come in prepackaged in packs of 10s. But I mean, their work, I'm being successful with them. They are working for me. So I notice a great mite drop. If the colony has a large mite count, it dropped a ton of mites. So it's really an interesting product. And I'm trying to help Mite. Maybe I might be going to Mississippi. We were talking about it a little bit today, so I might be in Mississippi in November, possibly. We'll see. Yeah, so you can put them on the bottom board. So that's what people are forgetting. You can put them on top, but you can slide them in the entrance as well. And that's something that I've done. And if you have an inner cover, they will fit good. But well, there's Brad waiting on Brad to join me. I figured he would probably join me, or someone would Thursday night. It's kind of a slow start. Everybody's going live tonight. David Burns, I believe, is live right now. This is how you get Brad to come on the stream. You say, "Hey, Brad, I got Tangeray," and then all of a sudden he shows up. He just pops in out of nowhere, finishing his supper. Okay, but yeah, it's been a kind of a weird kind of with a coping saw, but yeah, they are a little bit proud. I said that on the stream. They're a little bit thick. I found that I can usually get them between two deep boxes if there's no wax buildup on the top. If you scrape the frame and then put it down, it usually works really well. Or if you have plastic frames, it works really well. The wood ones are a little bit thick, but they do go. And if that don't fit, you can always slide them in your bottom board. They work there perfect too. Big buy chats. What? I mean, it was crazy with the Appy tablets for about 2 weeks, and then today was the first day I didn't mail a package out. So since we started talking about them. And Ian, I got them by the case as well. Or you can buy them by the pallet if you want to buy them by the pallet. And we'll somehow smuggle them over into Canada. I'm sure we could figure it out. Oh, the taco. Todd the Taco Man.
What's up, Bob?
What's up, Taco Todd?
Well, I had pasta tonight.
So I was watching this thing about centenarians, I guess is what they call them. Mm-hmm. People that live to be 100. And you know, not Loma Vista, but Loma Linda, California is one of the 5 hot spots for centenarians in the world.
It's the water. I don't know.
They're claiming it's the 7-day Adventist diet.
I don't know about that.
Philip.
Hey, what's up?
Phil.
Man, I appreciate you putting my website right across the screen on your YouTube videos. So were you out in your bees today? Anybody?
No, raining here.
No, nobody's in. I went out today. I realized, I was like, man, that's got bees coming out of it. That's got bees coming out of it. That's got bees going out of it, but that one doesn't. So I tore it apart and it got hive beetled and robbed. So I pulled that bottom board first and I was like, yeah, that's not good. I mean, it was bad. So I just pulled the boxes apart, set them where the sun will shine in them and let them go, you know.
Well,
Chris was in his bees today. I saw his video today.
I'm going to be in there in the morning. I go over to the farm tomorrow morning and see what's what.
I've got 7 days left as of tomorrow, unless they give me a deal so good I can't refuse it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. Creek Geek says he watched your Appy Tablet videos. He really enjoyed it. Whoop! And of course, I hit the wrong button. Sorry, DC. It scrolled right as I was trying to click it. Yeah, it's you know what? Gosh, maybe it's just me, guys. I look outside of the box a lot of times, right? It's always interesting when you open a box and see what's inside of it, but sometimes you got to look outside of the box to see what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's hilarious when I hear beekeepers talking about, well, something's not tried and it's not tested. Well, it's not tested here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not tried here. It's been tried. It's been tested. So it's kind of crazy. And then, but they'll watch a Don the Fat Bee Man video and watch him make up his essential oil mix and put it in a blender and blend it up. And, oh, well, Don the Fat Bee Man said it, so it's got to be accurate, you know? So beekeeping community is very selective on what they choose to follow and what they choose not to follow, right?
Yep.
I'll be honest. Seeing some of the comments and all that on the videos, you see that too.
I'll tell you what. I mean, for me, it was like with Apis Biologics. I needed to see nothing else. I didn't need to know what it did, how it worked, what happened. I saw Ian using it, and my rationale went to, if Ian's putting it in 1,500 colonies and willing to spend that extra money, that's all the sense it made to me, right? If he's willing to put that much money on that many colonies, I'm in. I'm done. I didn't need, I didn't need any third-party validation or, any hanging Chad investigation or something like that. And you got to be old to know what a hanging Chad is. Todd knows.
Yep.
But I mean, that's kind of the point, right? It's like it's kind of unusual how those things end up working out as far as different products and stuff on the market. People choose to believe some things, but ignore other things. And, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. Look, Randy said he washed a 0. He washed a 0 and still dropped 20 mites with the tab. So that's pretty good. It's going to be I'll trade a 375 milliliter bottle of corked blackberry meat for one Appy tablet. But Brad, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
You know, I'm on my regular rant trail for
rainy day here. So I finally got in the honey house. I cleared some things around, set up my comb cutting station, and I got some comb honey cut. I only got about 36 trays packed today, but we'll tackle it again tomorrow.
So you use your rainy days to catch up on stuff around the shop and honey and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I use, and not rainy days specifically, but cooler days, maybe days it's rained or something, is to get the last of my extracted frames out of the honey house and over to the sea can, because if I do that on a warm sunny day, the honeybees are on my back. So nice cool days. That's right. You open a sea can and in 5 minutes it's full of bees. So that's no good.
And then they get in tune.
So yeah, the push is kind of on. It's at this point with the honey house. Right now, I actually ended up using probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 boxes of those story frames. So with the half sheet of foundation in the center, and then they build comb honey on the outsides. So I'm cutting those right now, because what I need to do is after I cut the comb out of the sides, I need to extract the centers. So because that's the case, I need to keep my honey house warm until that's done. So the problem there is that sure cost me a lot of money to keep that building that warm for so long. My electric bill is pretty high in September, so I'm kind of got to get at that and get that extracting done and cool the place down.
It got down to 48 degrees last night here.
Did it?
And then it got up
our
to
daytime highs,
83.
Forecast highs over the weekend are 50.
Really?
It's cold. It's gonna be cold the next few days. It's just crazy. I don't even know what the overnights are. Nearly freezing. Tomorrow night, 2°C tomorrow night.
It's supposed to be 35 for a low Sunday night here, so it's getting close to freezing here already.
That's right about the same. Yeah, for sure. That's too early to be that cold.
See, I got just for you. I ordered a tripod only for you, Ed.
I know other people said something about it.
Oh, they did. But you know what? I don't care about what they think, though, Ed. I only care about what you think. That's why I ordered it. See, it's a whole thing, though, isn't it? Because I was poking fun at you on the last video because you had your tripod, and I'm like, but we're just looking at your back the whole time, Ed. You got to switch over to the side so we can see what you're seeing. And then you went around to the back, and that hive was shorter, and we couldn't see that hive over the taller hive that was in front of it. I was like, okay, well, we listened to you talk though, so that's good. But it's a trick.
Logistics.
What your camera's seeing when you're doing the work, right? So, but
the other side of it that would have been to the right of it, from my back to the right of me, is actually the flight path for those 2 hives.
Oh, they'll just have to wait until I'm done. They'll just have to hover behind my back till I get out of the way. Then they can come in. But but everything's going good with your hives. They look like
I've got one one that's really light. I think I'm gonna put it on over another hive and add some brood to it to see what happens. Because she's laying, but there's not a lot of they're not using all the resources. They're not able to protect it as well. So I was gonna put it over another hive.
Oh, a stink bug. I thought it was a bee that got in here.
Huh.
You know those little stink bugs? It's that time of the year here. You going away again, Steve? You're like you should have your own travel channel special. You've been to a few places this year. Canada. He went to Canada not long ago, like on a Canadian cruise. And he's going away again. Where are you going this time, Steve? Someone's got a fast bite going by. But so yeah, I'm down one more colony now to the wax moss. So he's going to Italy.
Nice.
One day I'll get there.
Thanks, Randy.
But if everything comes to fruition, I'll be going down to Mississippi for the Mississippi State Beekeepers Conference in November.
You
If
know
everything works out.
if Mamet is coming to California for the California State Beekeepers meeting or association?
He hasn't told me. He was in the chat. He might be still
Yeah, I
in
saw him in there.
there. So I don't know. I mean, he called me and asked me about going to the Mississippi one because it's kind of like I'm 9.5 hours from him. Mississippi Beekeeping Conference is 9.5 hours from me. So it's like one of those things. Oh, hey, Rob, good to see you. So I might go up there and have a table with some Appy tablets and talk about Appy tablets and my swarm lure and stuff like that up there. So we'll see what happens. If we can make it there. It depends on if I can get my sister to watch my mom. And then me and my wife will make a road trip. But we'll see. Now I have a motorcycle. So what's next for you guys? What's the big plans? Just anything special?
I got to refill some of my feeders. I was going to do that days ago, but then the weather really turned and I have hated to go out. I've had other stuff distracting me too, so I haven't been out. I'm hoping to get out there soon, refill some pails, because I'm getting late. Then another week or so, I need to take out my Apivar strips and start blowing in some oxalic acid vapor just to give them a mop up before winter.
I'm starting to fall off of the Apivar wagon. So I do have the oxalic acid, but like I pulled out the Apivar strips after a solid 6 weeks that they were in there. And I'm still getting Mite drop with the Appy tablet after. So I don't know if, I got some of the older strips, right? They had the newer 60 packs that they've got now, but I had the older 50 packs that I got at Hive Life last year. And, I don't know. It was Hive Life when I went there. Damn it. It's Hive Life still. So I got those last year and I don't know. They just maybe weren't as good as they had been in the past. I don't know, but he saw Charlie. Charlie. Thanks for bringing that's cheesecake, Charlie. It's only Sawmill Charlie on his stream.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Cheesecake Charlie.
He actually brought somebody with him.
Look at that.
Master Stepler.
Hey, boss.
Just let me fade into the background.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're the star of the show now.
No.
Hold on, wait a minute. Thank you for joining us for the Ian Stepler live stream tonight. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead with your presentation.
Maybe I'll just log off.
Thank you for presenting for us, Mr. Stepler.
Hey, Russ.
So I guess Matt said he's going to be at the California conference in November.
Good.
Jose had talked to me about going down there. I don't know if I'm going to go down there though. It's in the middle of the week and sometimes hard to tear away from the office, but who knows? I might. I have vacation.
That's why they created vacation days.
Yeah, I like to save them up for the last couple of weeks of the year.
Or as I say, sick days. That's why they created sick days.
That too.
You just got to.
That's the weekend.
Well, you know what? The bad part is they usually hold those things on Friday and Saturday. So you can drive back home on Sunday, I guess. But if you work, then you have to take Friday. You have to really take Thursday and Friday off, right?
Yeah.
So you got to. Now in Canada, I know you guys got like 6 months of the year off for vacation, especially when you own your own business.
That's right. Yeah, that's how it works.
House arrest.
That's exactly how it works. Goodness.
But they picked it during the middle of the week. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm thinking, well,
Really?
Strange. Yeah, and it's down in LA, so that's another.
Oh yeah.
You might take a day
People
to
don't
get
have
there.
jobs in LA.
What's that?
They don't have jobs
People
in
don't
LA.
have jobs in LA.
I actually think it's in Newport.
Who's the keynote speaker at that one? Like Keanu Reeves or somebody?
It's in Orange. It's in Costa Mesa.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio and
Give me a second here, I'll find out.
Orange County Chopper. Yeah.
So Todd, is that ABF?
The keynote speaker is Brad Hogg.
Oh,
Brad Hogg.
that's a good thing they told me.
What was that?
Maybe
What
it's
was
the soccer player. Brad Hogg, the soccer player, maybe.
Oh, hey, it might be. What were you saying, Charlie?
Is that ABF, American Beekeeping?
No, it's a California State Bee Conference.
Okay.
Yeah, they could have Morgan Freeman. He's got his bee sanctuary. So Ian was out there
Let me
blasting
tell
some
you all
OA.
about my honeybees. I'll tell you about my apiary, and I'll tell you about my honeybees. And we'll just talk about my bees all evening long.
Ironically, not in the same place as with Bob at the same time.
Right.
Speakers. Let's see.
So Ian, you're out there with your Instavap blasting some hives. How'd that go for you?
Product placement.
Of course, he's muted or we can't hear him.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a drinkable offense. Product placement.
It's Thursday. Oh well.
Well, when do we need it? Yeah,
Turn
you're
your-
muted,
So it
Ian.
sounds like
You're muted.
Kind
You're
of
muted, Ian. You're muted.
Are
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Am I
I
good?
hear
Better? Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of like that thing?
Yeah, I love.
It's working okay.
I just love it. Yeah, it's quick, easy to use. The battery, as long as you have enough battery there, it's just. I can't say enough good things about it. Actually,
Wow.
This little dose thingamajigger. This is quick, just like that, and just like that. So she's going from boom, 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 boom all the way down the yard. I'm pulling strips ahead of her, and I can't keep up. I have to actually work on the other side of the yard, and we just kind of cross like that because she's working the yard so fast. So we have a bunch. This is a Milwaukee setup, and we have batteries in the shop, and I went and bought some more today just so I can do about 300 hives in a day. So we should be good to go now. Yeah. So this is good. I did receive one unit complimentary because they wanted me to show it on YouTube. But then I bought a second one just to make it practical for my use. I have method to my madness, so.
Rob has a question for you on the chat.
Sure.
Did you get?
I don't see that.
Here, I'll pop it up here. Did you get the chance to run anything larger than a 5 amp hour battery today?
No, I just bought a 12 and a 8. I found a good deal at Granger, so I'll see how long of a treatment period that'll allow me. But I'm putting 4 grams in, so 4 grams really zaps those batteries. I'm roughly figuring about 1 amp or 1 and a bit amps to 5 colonies is what we're going at. So it's going to take. So what I have now is 50 amp battery power, and that should get me through. With that math, that should get me through 250 colonies without another charge. So do you find the same? Am I within the ballpark, Rob? We've gone through about 300 colonies now, and that's basically, give or take what we're seeing, about an amp for every 5 colonies on a 4 gram treatment.
Well,
pop it up, Bob.
The bigger cells and the large batteries will yield a few colonies per amp hour.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And there's
so my estimate's probably going to stretch to just getting a few more colonies in per yard. So that's good. Method to my madness. The reason why I'm kind of leaning this way, and I'm not quite saying this on my YouTube channel, but I'm obsessed about treating these mites.
Say it on my YouTube channel. I understand how this works.
If everybody's going to get demonetized, it's not Ian.
Rob, you can see my email for my address for my my commission check. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, what Rob's saying here,
I'm trying to, stepped on you. I'm trying to, my whole mindset is trying to target these mites in the winter shed because they're broodless, and we're not busy with farming and other stuff, or I'm not as busy. This is the perfect device that I can walk down these aisles and just treat these colonies. So I'm not sure if I really want to do that yet, but this is kind of the way I'm looking, is trying to target mites within the shed. I just dreaded the fact of dragging around a ProVap and extension cord and all this. Everything's handheld. It sticks in just perfectly into the entrance. I can't say enough good things about this. Like, we've only done 300 colonies, and I was provided a unit for exposure, and I was like, you got to be careful with me, because, I can show it like this and I can talk lots of good about it. But then if it just disappears off the screen, that's bad press for this unit, right? The whole world's going to see I'm not using it anymore. So far, so good. It's been outstanding. It's got a battery protector on it, so it goes below 15, or won't go below 15.5. So it protects the battery. Yeah, it's good.
Now, Rob said something about the yellow insulator. What is? I mean, we've not seen that yellow thing on top. What's that?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I guess it's an insulator. I was told it was to stop the spillage. Like, when we come in with our dose, we just stick it in, take our dose, and as it's going in here, there's a little bit of oxalic in there, and it's just to keep it off the top, from what I was told. And then everybody tells me it's an insulator, so that makes sense too. That'll help conserve some heat. Yeah.
Okay.
It costs a little bit of money. Yeah.
Is that an add-on, or or is that standard?
No, that I forget what it cost. Yeah.
It's standard for Ian. He's got to get the Cadillac. He's got all the.
Yeah, well, they provided me the complete deal with this and that. Not a battery though, and this. Couple.
Yeah, that's what Rob just said. It's for spillage and for insulation as well.
Oh yeah, I could see the insulation now. Yeah, but yeah, when she comes over with the dose, this is fully dosed. The highest is 4. This is a really good idea. Like, simplicity at its best, guys. You can meter it down to 1, or you can crank it right up to 4. And we've decided to go 4 this year. So she just goes in, click, click, and it's fast, right from the little tub of oxalic right into the chamber. Yeah.
Charlie's got something similar like that for his ProVap. They have that same.
Yeah, I bought it down at Hive Life. It's got the cap with the tapered hole in the top of it, and it's got the same kind of applicator. You set it and jam it into the bottle of oxalic acid and hit the plunger, and you're done. It's way better than scooping the caps and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It takes so much time. It doesn't seem like it takes a lot of time but when you're talking seconds, like I tell my work crew when we're in the bee yard, that we count seconds, we count minutes, we count hours, we count days, because if we trim off the seconds, we trim off the minutes, or trim off the hours, or trim off the days. So when you're working hive after hive after hive, and you trim those little bits and pieces of time like that, it just makes so much more efficient work and just gets more done in a day. So you can get that extra yard in just because you have this thing working instead of doing the measuring part and such. So I love it.
And what I found is when I'm measuring, I'm not really measuring, right? It's just, yep, that looks like a snow cone to me. Pop it in there, flip it upside down, and put it on upside down and flip it around on the ProVap.
Another nice plus about that is, those caps that they have now, they're heated silicone caps. They wear out after a couple years. Those are not going to wear out at all. So I do like that idea.
Yeah, I've had to buy for my ProVap. I've had to buy more caps because that gasket around there, it wears out, and I've replaced the gaskets because some of them have broken. But like you say, the cap itself, I think, gets worn too, where it just doesn't have a good tight seal.
Well, I'm using the other ones, like the colored ones. Like
the blue ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
after a while, they'll start getting crumbly at the end that goes into the pot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
nice thing of those silicone caps is they're pretty cheap.
They are.
Yeah. You can buy a mitt full of those every couple of years.
Yeah. So for anybody that's interested in coming to the land of $7 gas and going to the California Bee Conference, they do have a couple good speakers. The headline speaker is Dr. Sammy Ramsey. He's going to be there on Tuesday on the 14th talking about updates, I guess, on Tropolalops. And then the American Honey Producer President, Chris Hyatt's going to be there. Then Randy Oliver for 2 days. And then there's a lot of other speakers that I'm not aware of. But
it's a good lineup.
It is. Pretty nice.
Really good lineup.
That'll get someone there in the middle of the week. But November's pretty much a down month anyway around here.
Well, I mean, it's like 90 degrees in California all year round, right?
No. It was 90 today. It's supposed to be 98 on Saturday. Like, what's going on here?
We had 48 last night, which is unusual. So our first dip below 50, where the bees had to cluster, and then I go out today, wax moths, tore up a colony. So they either look really good or dead, like that one. So that's feast or famine right now for us. But I went out to my tote, and where all my fittings were pushed together, just clump, no drippage, but bees just all around the fittings trying to get syrup out of there.
I get that too. I get that in garden hoses and stuff that they're not even leaking and they're just covered in bees. That's weird.
So I went ahead and threw them 10 gallons in a tote today and let them go, let them do their thing. But wouldn't it be nice if there was just something you could open up a colony and just put it in there and close it up and leave it all winter, and it would help with that situation? Ian?
If somebody just come up with something like that.
If somebody would just come up with something like that,
that would be the greatest thing. You just put it in there. It's not going to hurt the bees. You don't have to bother going to take it out again in 42 days, just to pick a random number.
Right. You just leave it in there. And if we could just get the Canadian whatever it is to approve them, which I don't know why they would need. Well, it's Canada. That's why they need approval.
It's a different country, Bob.
Just a different country, yeah.
Bob, just say you're shipping marshmallows. That's all you got to say.
Yeah, I just put. They're very smelly marshmallows. That's what they are. So I did a quick calculation. They have about 17% thymol in them. If you take
which would be great for a nosema problem.
9 grams out of a total of 70, right? I don't know how I came up with 17. I just did the division. So I could be wrong. It is math. So, but yeah, it is a new product, Ian. That's what I'm going to get sent to you and Brad and James as a test. You don't even have to say anything about it. Just test it and see what you see, and
What kind of medium does it hold the thymol in? What is it?
it
Mostly
is
cornstarch.
cornstarch.
Corn.
Yeah,
It's
corn.
Yeah, it's cornstarch.
Yeah, you can see actual pieces of corn in it too.
Yeah, it does have pieces of. And we know you're all about the corn, Ian.
Yeah, it looks like a puck.
Looks like a urinal cake.
This one, yeah, that's what we were joking, calling them urinal cakes when I got my first bit of them. But this one happens to be open, but they fit perfectly in the 71 millimeter feeder hole on the top of your hive. They'll fit right in there, and then you can just put.
I don't think the ends are that big though.
No.
You mean in the
But
States we use
it's a half
71?
inch.
We use 71
It's a half
millimeters.
inch thick.
Yeah,
No.
but it's
Got
about a half inch.
Our feed holes aren't that big, but it's half inch, so it'll fit under that shim. That shim will make it work.
But yeah, I was happily surprised when I put those beetle bottom boards on, and I was looking for beetle drop, and I pulled that tray out, and there was about 1,000 mites in the tray. I was like, oh, okay. It doesn't claim to kill mites, but
it's a nice side
it's
effect.
a happy side effect. So it's pretty interesting.
How's your brood? How's your brood with the treatment on that?
So this particular colony, my bees were so stressed out from hive beetles. I mean, and I know you guys don't get them, but when you open them up and they're just everywhere. There was the first inspection I did, there was about 5 cap brood cells in there. That was the first day when I pulled the tray out and there was beetles in it. So about 7 days after I put the tablet on, there was 5 cap brood cells, and she had just started laying again. And now she's got 5 frames of brood, all stages in there again. So she just cranked it right back up as soon as those beetles and mites fell off. She wound herself right back up and back at it. And I've got several colonies that I'm starting to find a correlation. Not a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure somebody has done it somewhere, but I just hadn't heard it. That I find out the more pissed off my bees are, the more stress-related anger it feels like that they're putting out. They're fighting beetles. They're fighting mites. You open it up, they come boiling out. Phil up there did a video and putting the tablet on, and his bees were just rolling out. And one shook a 24 and one a 20 or 22, Phil?
Yeah, 24 and 20.
And it went from a 22, the one went from a 20 to, it was like, what was it, 12% down to 1.74% over 6 days. And he actually might shook his. I didn't do that because I was just, who knew they would kill mites right at the beginning. So it's and then his second one went from, what was the second one, Phil?
That one didn't have as much. That was the one with 24. That one dropped down to 13.
But percentage wise, it went from like a,
that one went from 12% down to about 7
over 6 days.
Yeah.
So so it is, I mean, and it continues. So you don't take it out. It should stay in the deep for 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and 1 puck per, we call them pucks for Canadians. You get 1 hockey puck per deep. And I mean, the beauty of it is while you're doing that last inspection, you just put the puck on and close it, right? And you're done. I mean, you don't have to take it out. They just consume it, and it's done.
What if they consume it too fast?
Yeah, if they consume it faster than 3 weeks, they recommend that you put another one on. And I mean, I don't have overwhelming bee populations like you do down there. but I mean, I got some boxes of bees right now, so yeah, so it just surprised me, but Mehmet, the owner of the company, this company's been around in Turkey since 1960. It's just new here, right? So his dad started the company in 1960, and his dad's 85 now, and he's, the son. He's been in beekeeping his whole life, and he's bringing some of their tricks of the trade from over there over to here, and that's, I find it interesting that it seems like out of all the different places in the world that do things beekeeping, it's like the U.S. is always the last one, and then when we get it, everybody's like hypercritical of everything, right? But you see a YouTuber do it, like Don the Fat Bee Man, like I was saying, he'll just mix up a bunch of essential oils in the water and blend it in his blender, and then everybody's doing it. He's got 85,000 people doing it with no test, no nothing, just because he said. But you get a company that's been around since 1960, then everybody's like, well, where's all the data? Well, here's the data. Look at my damn video. It's got 1,000 mites in the tray. I mean, that's the only thing that went in it. So I don't know. There you go. My second rant for Thursday night is over. We stay tuned for the third. I'm sure there'll be one. So, I mean, when are you guys moving them into the shed, though? It's got to be soon, right? Next 2 weeks or so?
Month or so.
Oh, yeah. Depends when it gets cold again. I'd like to get them in a little bit sooner than later, but I guess that's not up to me.
Right. But usually it's around the first week of November, second week of October timeframe.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I get them in before. I'm heading to Iowa on the 9th of November, so I'm going to have to get them in before then. Typically, end of October, unless we have a freak warm spell that comes in beginning of November like we do sometimes. But hopefully it just kind of gradually cools down into a nice cold chill. We're supposed to get frost, I think. Was it Friday night or Saturday night, Brad?
Yeah,
We had
two tomorrow night. Here is the forecast, so could be getting some frost in places. But Bob, the issue we face is, we'd actually like to put them in earlier, but it's got to be cold enough outside to cool the building.
Right.
Put them in, then they just overheat if it's too warm outside.
It'd be my luck. I'd put them in the building, and then that warm day would come the next day, and they'd all be like trying to fly.
And they'd cook, yeah. Oh yeah, spring and fall. In my case, anyway, I'm just glued to the forecast. It's like, okay, what's it going to do? Crystal ball. Okay.
You might as well just flip a coin, because that's about as accurate as the weathermen are most of the time.
Well, that's about it. They can't tell you what the weather was yesterday.
Nope.
A few years ago, I started moving in middle of October because it was cold. There was snow on the ground and looked like we were creeping into winter. So I have 500 or 600 colonies in my shed. Then we have 4 or 5 days of 20-degree weather. Was it beginning of November? So I had to move them all back out because I couldn't keep them in the shed. So I moved them all out on the front lawn. They flew around and I moved them all back in. So that's a lot of work.
I remember that.
Sandy wasn't so
bees
thrilled.
all around the house.
She was still, she was still allergic, like deadly allergic to them at that time. She couldn't open the door.
Stuck in the house.
Had a pinned inside.
Stuck to the house. What I want to do is get some kind of a refrigeration unit or something to help cool the shed, not just for the spring, but to get them inside middle of October in the fall. I was talking to Lloyd. He was down on Tuesday. He was down at one of our regional meetings here, and he gets talking about bee longevity, and I just sit back and listen to him talk. But you guys, we could even put our bees in the shed in September. We just have to be able to keep them cool, because he's convinced that the inflection on longevity of those bees is temperature related. Temperature related, indirectly flight. So if the bees are flying, they're dying, the old saying. But he figures if you get that temperature, get them down to 5 or 7 degrees, that's when that death inflection flattens out. So he said we could bring them in September. What's the difference?
It's not flat though, so you still got a termination date. It goes from a very steep decline to a very shallow decline, but it's definitely not flat. And I think that's what we need to look at.
Randy
I
said,
was thinking about that.
Ian, if
Or
you
go
don't get
ahead,
them in
Brad,
before
or
you leave, Brad.
That's what his graphs show anyway.
I was thinking about that, and every once in a while, one of my hired guys will, dump a pallet of bees onto the ground because it falls off the truck or whatever, or onto the pad. And I'm looking, there's some bees up in the air, but there's a lot of bees that just kind of stay there and don't move, and they just crawl, and they're not flying. So I was thinking, like, I'm following your train of thought, Brad. I know exactly what you're talking about, but what would the difference be? Because those bees that are crawling in the ground, those bees, if we put them in the shed in September, or if we put them in the shed in November, what's the difference, really? What bees are we saving by putting them in a little bit later, right? To get those flights, those bees that fly later in the fall, we call cleansing flight. Are they actually useful bees? Are they going to die in the shed anyways? Can you kind of see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, there's still. I'm trying to remember Lloyd's data, and there's still some summer bees until the end of October. So some of those flying bees will be dead anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
But aren't they the oldest bees? Wouldn't they be the one? And I don't know your geographic situation.
They would be the older bees.
But wouldn't they be the ones that are still foraging up until the last minute to put whatever resources they could into the colony? Or have you just fed them all up to where they're not bringing anything in, they're just flying?
Yeah, I guess that's where their use would be, bringing that late pollen coming into the colony. They'd be flying, and I bet you they're dead by Christmas, those bees. But the rest of them, what's the difference if you put them in September or if you put them in the shed by November? As long as you can keep that temperature down, right? Because if it's too warm, they're going to crawl, and then you're not going to be able to keep them in the box.
Well, how
I saw a
low
video about the guys who are doing the big potato sheds and the big, out in Idaho and whatnot. These massive refrigeration units and whatnot in there. Just an astounding number of colonies. And I remember that one thing that they were talking about, and they were. This was quite an involved video, and it wasn't just experiential conclusions. It was actually they had the science people behind what they were seeing. And the researchers were saying that yes, the age is directly related to flight, and that agrees with Lloyd's data. That if they're flying, like you said, if they're flying, they're dying. So they're saying they want to get them in there, get that temperature down, put them into a stasis, kind of a low metabolic rate kind of thing, keep them from flying, and that definitely has a big impact on how long they live.
Would that? But then
those guys are moving the bees into the shed right now. But they keep them in to about January. They're not trying to keep them.
Not a
April,
long time.
No.
Well, that would be the flip side, right? Well, we would call it spring, but those late winter for you guys starve outs that happen in the colony, right? Then do they have enough resource to go in earlier to make it to the same point in the spring?
Starving is definitely an issue, but the more winters I keep bees, the less I worry about it. It is not nearly as much of an issue as I have always thought it might be. I rarely get colonies that starve out, and it's just astounding how little they eat in the first part of the winter, because here we've stopped the queen from laying, so there's no brood to feed. And then later on in the winter, it's always hard to tell because I don't dig into them. I'm kind of going half by what Lloyd says, because he talks about small amounts of brood all winter. So that's really the bulk of the feed that they consume, is if they're brooding. And that's another reason to kind of say knock it off. Don't brood a whole bunch
right
during the winter, because you'll eat too much as a result.
I'm curious to see how your Italians do over the winter with their consumption rate. Ian.
Yeah, me too.
Well, they're not what I would call Italian bees. I know Italian bees, and they're broody and they eat a lot. But these are buckfast, and they're completely different than I know as Italians. So, oh, they're angry little bitches too. There's this whoever supplied the bees to those packages. Just I guess they don't focus on gentle bees, because I can tell when I'm going into the yard to that buckfast yard. Buckfast are supposed to be gentle bees, as far as I understand. They're the meanest bees I've ever.
You must
They're
not
just
watch
terrible
Lawrence from
bees.
Black Mountain Honey, because some of his bees get pretty spicy, and he's always talking about his F1 buckfasts that he's running up there in England, and
Yeah,
some of his are pretty
May-
angry too. Otherwise,
maybe
I'm
that's
sorry.
what it
you
is.
got
Like
some
my
bees.
colonies, I can kick my colonies down the lane this time of year, and they would give a damn. But I walk into the yard, and just to top up the feed pail, bees in the face just like that. Carrie just hates them. They're so angry. So we'll be systematically calling those queens out next year, just to try not to preserve those genetics.
Just box him up and send him down to old Bob. His bees are already pissed. It'd be like the WWE. You know, I'll find a home for him somewhere.
He's got the Kevlar bee suit. He can handle them.
I'm gonna market one. I'm gonna see if I can design a Kevlar bee suit. That's what we need. I'll look like the bomb squad coming out with the hard helmet and thick coat on.
As long as your Kevlar bee suit comes in shorts.
It looked like a
then
guy
we're
from the
good.
bomb squad.
I'm good with that.
The problem is, very rarely do I get stung up top. It's always in the crotch and on the inside of my legs and the ankles and through my jeans, or they come out.
Really?
Well, I'm Ian's height, right? So when I open up a double deep that's on a hive stand, it's right crotch level. So you open it up.
First thing they see.
Right there, They just need to hit the right piece down there. That could use a little swelling, but everything else needs to stay back.
Isn't that talk for the after party?
The 75 people that are watching right now, if they've watched my stream before, they know. They already know.
I guess, Brad, one of the problems of moving him in too early would be just not having enough refrigeration capacity to keep the shed cool if it did get to 25 degrees in middle of October. That's probably what the biggest hazard would be to that. Because those bees kick off a lot of heat, and they're big colonies.
I could move my bees in this weekend, and they'd be good, but I can't depend on the temp. When it gets cold first week in November, I can sort of say, well, a hot day in late November is 5, and I might be able to take that, but not in October. A hot day late October is 25. So
that's probably the biggest challenge. So when you do your factoring and refrigeration, they tell me it's 1 ton of refrigeration for every 100 colonies. So 1,500 colonies, you'd want 15 tons of refrigeration. That is a pretty big refrigeration unit. And I guess that would be...
I think it's 12,000 BTUs or something per ton or something like that.
Okay, I'm not sure, but that's a lot, right?
Maybe you should pipe in some CO2. A little CO2 to put them to sleep, or get them groggy. I don't know. That's too much refrigerant. I mean, those things that would cost a pretty penny.
Oh,
but if they're not flying, if it's cold and they're not flying, if they're outside and they're it's cold enough and they're not flying, there's no difference. What's the difference? There is no difference. No. And another thing I've always worried about, but I've kind of learned to stop worrying about it so much, is cold weather when they're outside, because they are very good at staying warm. They don't, minus 10, minus 15 overnight outside doesn't seem to bother them. they're good with it. So that's why I opt to leave them out until we've got some good solid cold weather. Mostly it's self-serving actually, because I want to use my honey house as long as I can use it, because as soon as the bees are in there, I'm out of that building. I don't have that building to use, so I want to leave them outside as long as I can. But I've learned that, and it's just the last year or so, it just dawned on me. We look at the freezing temperature. We look at the 32F or 0C. We look at that temperature and we think, wow, it's dropped below zero. It's below freezing now. The bees are oblivious to that magic line that we look at, that theoretical line. They're completely oblivious to that. It makes no difference to them at all whether it's 2 degrees or -2. It's not a thing to the bees. It's the temperature that's going to affect them is way lower than that. It's probably -20 C before the bees really start saying, holy cow, is it ever cold? Right? They don't look at that way.
So it's once it gets to the point that they can no longer sustain the temperature with the number of bees they have in the colony, that's when it becomes the issue, not wherever that is.
I've told a story before, and I'll tell it again. I had a beekeeper out here not far from me. He ran about 75 colonies one winter. This was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And through one thing and another, he didn't get his bees put away in the fall. He fed them up, but he didn't get them put away inside, and he didn't get them wrapped. So they just sat just like they would in the summer all winter. And as you'd expect, most of them died. But most of them died. 3 of those colonies survived. And he did a postmortem on every one. So 3 out of 75 survived. And
sounds like my count.
I think he said, yeah, but this is the thing. They were out all winter. I think he said 2 of them froze up. So they were eating so much feed, they're creating so much moisture that the hive just couldn't expel that much moisture, and they got so much ice in the hive that they succumbed to the amount of ice. And he said, so that takes care of 6. And he said 69 of those colonies starved to death. So it's a really expensive and harsh way to learn that, but that to me spoke volumes. It spoke volumes that say, with enough feed and enough proper ventilation to prevent the icing issue, those bees could survive. And it was a cold winter that year, a cold Canadian winter. So it's just remarkable what they can accomplish when it comes to cold temperatures. They starved to death. If they'd had enough feed, maybe they would have survived.
Ian, don't you have to play the game though about weather as far as road conditions? Because you could have hives that get blocked by snow or ice or something like that, and you're kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature at that point, right?
Oh yeah. There's some years that I wait too long, and Dad's ahead with the tractor pushing snow into the yards as I'm picking them out. Yeah, that'll be like 2 feet of snow. Those aren't that. I don't like that. It's not a lot of fun. Sometimes you have a matter of 2 days of time to get them. It's 20 degrees, then it goes down into 2 feet of snow in 2 days. It's things can change on a dime, so it doesn't give us much time. One of the reasons why I'd like to get them in earlier in October is just to manage that issue a bit more, just make things more of a schedule to bring the colonies in, have them sitting in there, and not have to worry about the heat if it comes after to, force me back outside.
So
a good cold spell is nice if there's not a lot of snow, because it's nice to drive on.
And you can work all day too.
Jim said, I saw the ProVap video. Ian, are your colonies broodless yet?
Yeah, you know what? I to be honest, I didn't dig down into the colonies to see what's going on. They're so hard to get into this time of year because they're full of honey, and you take a frame out, and there's just so many bees. I just did not want to go. I typically like to get down to a few just to see what's going on, because I am treating with oxalic. I'm wasting my time because there's 2.5 frames of brood, but I would guess that they're at the back end of the brood. Brad, have you gone down into yours? Do you see what's going on?
No, I haven't yet. Probably next week when we get a little bit of sunny weather, I'll grab a couple. And I keep saying I'm going to make a video on that because it's such an unusual sight to see that hive with no brood. Hopefully no brood.
Oh, I hate it. That's another reason I don't want to go
It's-
down, because it's just the colony is so unfamiliar to me. I just hate it. I'm not sure what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Because in the summer, if you were to see that in the summer, you shake it out, right?
Yeah.
A hive with nothing but feed and no brood, you'd say, well, there's no queen in here. You just shake it out, but that's what they are. It's just bizarre.
And the way they hold themselves on the frames, they're just not. They just don't organize. They don't behave in the same way as they typically do through the year as they develop themselves. They're in a state of just.
No.
They're just they're just existing at that point. Now I'll eventually
And
get
you
down
can't-
into one. Typically, I'll find a box that is like, I have a lot of bad boxes, but I find really bad boxes I have to switch out. So I'm forced to switch them over, and I can see what's going on for the most part. So I'll eventually get down there. Just I haven't yet.
And the few times that I have gone in over the years, and if I look real hard, I could find her, but I've never seen a queen, which is doubly crazy, because you think, well, there's no queen in here, because what are we told? You look for eggs, right? Well, goodness, there's no eggs. Yep. There's no nothing. It's all 10 frames of capped syrup.
I've got slabs right now still.
That's crazy.
So, Ian, how's your? Was it a British Columbia queen that you got from that person, or how are they? How are those bees? Are they nice bees or or?
Yeah, those are really good bees. I wish I could have got more of them. I know a couple of queen producers out there. They've been in the business for a long time, generational beekeepers. And the guy I bought bees from, I actually met at the BC Honey Producers Association, one of their meetings. I was there. So he had the bees, and they supplied the queens to him. And then I brought them, I caravanned them over, and they did very well. Yeah, they're probably. One of the reasons why I did that is because I wanted to see. So these packages we get into Canada, they come from overseas. And they come, and it's just kind of, you cringe when you think about buying packages, because you're not sure how the bees are going to be, and you're not sure how the queens are going to be, and it's kind of like a Russian roulette. And I'm thinking to myself, it can't be the producers, because those guys, they're professionals, they're raising good queens, they're doing a fantastic job. It's got to be in between. It's got to be transit. So I drove out to BC. I picked up those 100 packages, put them into my SUV, and I hightailed her back, and I babied those queens. It's probably the hottest day all spring. I moved them back in. It was 35 degrees going down the road, trying to keep them down. I was watering them down. I had these snorkels going out the window to force the air through the cabin, and I looked really redneck. But I babied them, and I kept them at the temperature about 25 degrees. I put them in the box. The queen, she's laying.
Moving service.
We're going to do it again next year, so just watch. But those queens, they didn't miss a beat. They brooded up. They actually produced more honey than some of my production colonies here. They're in sixes, mind you, and they had a little bit of help there, but it's just terrific. And that's telling me that the bees I got from BC were babied all the way back. The ones we're getting from overseas, they're being damaged through transit. And the queens we're getting from California, same damn thing. They're being damaged through transit. There's that disconnect in between the producer and the buyer that's hurting our cause in between. And we got to identify that as a problem. We got to fix it. It's not acceptable.
I had the same problem with queens from California this year. I ordered 50.
I mean, some of those 50. Some of those bees, they have two or three stops before they get to the final destination. There's bees that come from Italy this last year. They started in Poland. What's the capital in Poland?
Warsaw.
Warsaw. They sat there for too long. Then they flew over to Toronto. They sat on the tarmac for an hour in the sun. And then they
Ooh.
got shipped to, it was either trucked from Toronto or to Calgary, then trucked and back. I forget what it was. But those bees have seen a lot of life in their transit. Some of them didn't make it either. So, as beekeepers, we're relying on other people to do their jobs properly. Those other people, sometimes they don't give a damn about their jobs. And that's not acceptable. These airlines have to follow SOPs. There's no reason why they're not. So that's one thing that we need to identify within our industry in Canada, is as we're bringing in this replacement stock, we need a better logistic control of the logistics to make sure the stock gets into Canada in good shape. So that was one of the reasons why I bought from BC, just because I wanted to prove to myself, what is the deal here? Why are the packages so variable coming in? When I controlled the conditions, there was no problems whatsoever.
Right. You didn't. They did not have the stress with when you brought them back,
Exactly.
and the rest of them, they were stressed out multiple times, and that's they're just
That's-
dead.
More than they could bear. And that's probably why we're seeing some of these queens when we buy them in from places like California or Hawaii or New Zealand. That's probably why we're seeing super seizure, in 2 months. That's not
Yeah.
acceptable for a queen that I raise at home here. But those queens have been stressed. Maybe their semen's been damaged, other stresses. The bees know that, so they want to switch them out because of that. So anyways.
I ordered 56 queens from California, and of 56, 0 took. Even the ones that came in that I got out the first day into some boxes, none of them ended up living. The ones that were in the in my I can't even think of the word now, that I had
Queen
in
Cap.
another colony being taken care of, right? And
Your bank.
my queen bank, sorry. And they were in there 2 days. All of them were dead in the queen bank, in the cages.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
So I mean,
That's
and
definitely
then
transit.
I buy 55 queens for these late season bulk splits. I did 50-ish, or I had 52 queens, and I only had 2 queens not take, so I have 50 of them going, and they're boxes like fantastic queens. So you have situations where it works, and then we have situations like in your case, Bob, it doesn't work. Completely doesn't work. We take so much risk as beekeepers, and we've just learned to accept the loss, and that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why we do that. We need to fix it. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're on the hook for it, right? There's
right.
a lot of stress involved. You talk to politicians, and when you're trying to get a point across, you start talking about the mental health of beekeepers when they receive 150 dead packages in the mail. And then they start listening, right? They're all about those buzzwords, mental health and all that, managing risk, safety net programs, all this kind of stuff. They got to start paying attention a little bit more to help us with these issues, to make sure that we don't, fall into those circumstances where all your queens are alive or dead.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
that's my rant.
well, got
some
one
good
for you.
points.
And ding ding.
Good points.
So with Carrie and her queen rearing, and that you've been pretty much self-sustainable when it comes to your own queens, and I'm going to say you, from your gentle bees that you're describing, you built up a colony of good queens and gentle bees and all the characteristics that you liked. Now with these new queens and stuff that you've kind of brought in, are you going to be able to replicate that same set of bees and characteristics that you're looking for with? I mean, do you have your old bees? Do you have any of your old bees that you can go back on as far as genetics go?
Oh yeah. Like we still have. What did we end up there with? It was probably 800 colonies I was able to limp through. So I do have a base stock there.
So
And I
you got
brought a
some,
shit ton of new
yeah,
stuff in.
right. So you do have the old
And
genetics that you can go back. So all right, good.
the reason why we didn't do a lot of queen breeding this last year is because all my sickness and all my sickness showed I had a lot, like I'm talking 9 billion copies of black cell queen virus per bee, like 9 billion. is what my
Jeez.
number was for black cell queen virus. And that was directly related to my varroa infestation that I had the fall before. So I'm thinking to myself, like, and then I had a nosema issue too. And it is shown in study that when you have nosema problems, it directly influences the quality of those queens. So I told Carrie, I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to back away from her queen rearing program this year. We're going to bring imports just to protect myself for next year, because I didn't have my battery of stock behind me to save my ass. And I said, if we have another bad winter, I'm not going to be hiring any workers because we won't have any bees. So we focused on bringing in the queens, bringing in the packages. And we did do some queen rearing, and they're just spitfire, right? They're really good queens that she made for me. She was really happy that we did 200 or 300 there for a little bit. But we'll get back into
There's
it
a
next
few here
year.
too.
Yeah, Brad's got some too.
There's a few here too.
I didn't
But
say
the silver
My
lining
stock,
to the
her
whole
hand.
thing, the silver lining I'm going to say to this is I think bees thrive with diversity. And maybe it's not a bad thing to bring in new genetics into my stock just to shake up the whole pot and let that hybrid vigor take its place again. So it's probably a good thing that I bring in. Maybe I should be doing this more. Maybe these BCBs I'm going to be bringing in for the next 5 years, I made a deal. Maybe that's going to help bring variety to their genetics, and maybe I'll see more vigor. Like in the cattle business, where Charolais producers, we just love selling to Angus herds because the vigor between those two animals makes spectacular steers, and those guys in the feedlots just love buying them up because their meat is well marbled and they grow like a bugger, right? So the same with the bees. The more genetics you have, maybe we'll get that hybrid vigor going on there, and maybe it's a good thing in the long run. So that's what I'm going to take from it, Charlie.
Yeah,
Hey, Doug.
I was just now the next question is, and you probably don't know why, but you've been on top of things for years. As far as your mite loads and all, and this is the first catastrophic thing that I know of that has happened to you. And it's like, why? Why did it happen? Do you have any of your science people have told you why, or can you prevent it?
Yes. I think I'm starting to stitch together maybe a little of bit of a story that kind of fell onto my lap, and I think all the problems are in Manitoba anyways. I think it all stemmed from that bloody drought we had back in 2021. It seemed that major stress event seemed to cause so much grief of Manitoba beekeepers. I don't think anybody in Manitoba escaped from it. So we had a major stress event, malnourishment. 60% of the colonies in Manitoba died, except for Brad and I. We had a good spring that year. We were able to crawl out of that spring. And I think what was we're also noticing a lot of trouble down in the southern states, up into California, with American beekeepers losing colonies. And the common thread there seemed to be nosema. Everybody seemed to have nosema. What I think happened, for me anyways, here was, I'm not going to go on this rant.
I don't have enough Kraken.
I didn't have good enough control of my varroa mites the fall before, and I fault the company for a faulty product, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, okay.
So I had a varroa mite. Yeah, I had a varroa mite problem.
Yeah.
And the varroa mite problem led to virus. I got into the spring. Actually, I come into winter in fairly decent shape, a little bit smaller than I thought, but I got into winter in fairly good shape. And then we had consecutive cold weather come through, and it flared up my nosema infection. I have a lingering nosema infection within my stock. It's always there. It flares up, it goes away, flares up, and this one just blew up. So I had the varroa mite problem, the brought in virus, and I had a heavy nosema infection, which just killed the attrition of my colonies. I think there's the combination of nosema and a virus in there that just did not let me climb out of that hole. And because of that, my colonies were severely stressed. I had chalk brood problems. I fed more patty than I ever have because they're wanting nutrition. They wanted to build, but they just didn't have the nutrition because of the nosema. And Brad and I talked about this, whether or not I was feeding the nosema as I was feeding the bees, as if I was actually hurting myself by providing the nutrition for my bees to build themselves out of the attrition. If it was just maintaining this nosema infection, if maybe it would have been better for me to starve out the nosema and then try to build them up again. I don't know what the answer to that is, but there's a lot of things that come together there that just was working against me all the way along. And then, you know,
now with the
European
nosema,
foulbrood.
yeah, with the nosema, I mean, is there any other than I'll say
Yeah.
pure medication? Is there something that you can add to your feed to help kill that gut bacteria like that? I mean,
And that's another thing I'll say. Maybe I was getting a little bit too bold on my whole narrative of a healthy bee fends off disease, right?
mhm.
Feeding a patty isn't a medicine. And I was getting to the point thinking in my head, maybe because I'm feeding this rocket fuel in there is helping with their nutrition because I'm really, and you know, I'm filling in the blanks with the patties, focused on that. It's got me through all these years just in brilliant shape that I was starting to think that maybe just the nutrition alone was keeping the disease away. But the disease, when it took foothold, it just killed me like that. It didn't matter how healthy those bees were. I needed medicine to fix those bees up. And by the time I come around to realizing that to myself and started treating with medicine, it was a little bit too late. And I was just too far down that hole. It took me until July to climb back out.
So that was
But I
what
used patties. I used medicine. I used patties. I used everything at my disposal to get myself out of that hole. And that saved me from probably a 55% loss. I could have been completely wiped out last spring. So I did do a lot of right things, but what I'm trying to tell myself is I got to be a little bit more aware and maybe
as far as
medicate.
medication, was that like fumagellin or something like that to be able to get rid of the nosema?
The nosema is fumagillin. Yeah, I treated him
Okay.
twice, and
Yeah.
that helped out quite a bit. I seen a direct response. Did you see, Brad, when you fed your fumagillin? Did you see a response in your nest after the treatment?
Yeah, I certainly did. Yeah. Yeah, and you know it's that time of season though. I didn't want to give it too much merit, but I think
Yeah.
I think it definitely did turn that nest around right about then.
Yeah, I seen that response too. I've never had that severe an infection as nosema before. I've used fumagillin before, and it's just I call it the bounce back when you feed and you pretty much kill the gut and the bee. And that's why I quit using it because I knocked down the nosema. And then I'd have escalating spikes in nosema after that. So I quit using it. I started just feeding patties for nutrition just to maintain the overall health. And that helped me out. But I seen a direct response of the nest recovering right after that treatment. And that helped me out quite a bit. The other thing, and I just got my testing back for the tech transfer program here, and it's something I wasn't quite aware of, but I have a European foulbrood infection, and I'm like not American foulbrood. Those colonies would be burnt right now.
Yeah,
It's European
right.
foulbrood.
Yeah, I've had it.
So, and there's studies that show that even when you have one colony that you find infected within your yard, it's a visible infection. You can see it. They all have it. So my testing I've done is showing that I have a very low level, widespread European foulbrood problem within my apiary right now. And because of that testing, I'm going to have to be a little bit more aggressive with my antibiotic treatments. And so far, I've been treating with oxytetracycline. And I've seen instant response to that. I treated with 3 rounds this last fall with that. I'm going to do it again this next spring and probably next fall until those levels fall off the chart. But I'm talking to beekeepers across Western Canada, and they can't use 2 of the main products for European foulbrood because there's no response to it, and they're using other products just trying to control European foulbrood.
Right.
I didn't realize because I'm in my own little bubble that European foulbrood is a huge problem, and I've seen it now, and it's just it decimates the colony. It's not a good one. We got to pay more attention to European foulbrood.
Did you see Bob Benny's video here a couple weeks ago about that, where he used
I certainly did
a towel and that was very interesting. I thought, you know that.
Yeah. What was that? Was that lemongrass or what was that product?
No, it was something else.
Eucalyptus oil and camphor.
Yeah, camphor and eucalyptus. You know, it was all basically. It
was essential oils.
Huh?
Essential oil.
Tea tree essential oils. He said it, you know, absolutely worked.
Canola oil, tea
Yeah.
tree oil, eucalyptus oil, and camphor.
I
Yeah,
seen
I
that
mean, I
video
was
too. I donated some of my colonies to our tech transfer program here for this RNA mite treatment project, and I accidentally donated a colony at European fallow brood, and that one that one colony within that one test yard infected all those bees within that test yard with European fallow brood. So I think what I want to do, I'm going to take it to our steering committee. I want to take those bees. I want to isolate them. I want to take them and run a trial of Bob's
yeah.
essential oil treatment just to see if it actually works.
Well, I mean, he's got the experience the way I look at it, but also the fact that he had those 3 or 4 colonies there, and it completely cleaned them up. He said in
Well,
the video.
I almost got
but-
excited, when you say Bob's on my show. I'm like patting myself on the back. I'm like, oh,
Nah.
wrong Bob.
The guy
Bob.
also has different flavors, Ian. He's got one for wax moth, nosema, and other conditions. Not just the basic thing that we were talking about earlier. So
Who's this?
I
now,
missed
Todd?
that, Todd.
Mamet.
Could you say that again? I missed.
No, he's talking about Bob Binney, not.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mamet.
No.
Well,
No. Bob Benning. He had put this
No.
shop towel with these certain things on there, and it cleaned it up within about 2 weeks. Or
No,
actually, it was less than 2 weeks.
I thought Ian was talking about taking some hives and isolating them and using the tabs that Bob had.
Well,
Wrong
Is that
Bob.
what you're saying,
They're
Ian?
talking about the Bob, not the Bob that has this
Oh.
show right now, but
Okay,
the
all right.
Wrong
The
Bob. Yeah.
Not Bob, but the Bob.
King Bob.
Actually, you know what, Bob? I would do that if well, I can't do it because I don't control the tech transfer program. I'm the chair of the steering committee. But if you send enough of those tabs up there, citizen science, right?
Right.
Yeah, we could to see if what you're talking. Like we do have thymol products up here. I'm not familiar with what you have, but the thymol products that I'm familiar with up here are terrible hard in the brood. I've had bad experience with it.
I haven't had that experience. Phil, have you had that experience on yours?
No.
I mean, Queen.
The thing with if I can speak to the Abbott tablet, that I keep coming back to that's totally different than everything else, is it's not a gas off product. It's an ingestion product.
Mhm.
The bees eat it, and that's why it works. It doesn't gas off and fill the hive with some noxious stench of some
It does
kind.
stink, though. So
you
now,
know,
Ian, you're talking about
kill
what
the brood.
AirGuard is what you used.
Oh, geez, I don't know.
Apicard is not approved for use in Canada.
I think it's thymol var.
I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a paste, right?
No, these are little tablets that you a wafer, that you break and you put in the.
Oh, you're
corners.
thinking about
That's an Apple Life bar.
Life bars. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
So the
I had bad experience with that.
principle behind the tablet is they ingest it, and then the mites that are feeding on the bees ingest it through the bee's blood, and they just die. I mean, but it's not sold as a mite treatment because of all of the regulations that they have to go through to get that approval. So they sell it as a bee feeding supplement, and I think it's got sugar, cornstarch, pieces of corn. You'll see them, and a bunch of essential oils and stuff in it. And thymol is one of them. And I would say the majority of it is thymol, just from the odor that you do smell when you open the pack. Whereas Mark Andrews said when he pulled in the parking lot up there, you could smell it in the parking lot when he was going into the warehouse. That's how strong it smelled. So, but I can't say that it didn't shut my queen down. All I can say is she had already shut down because of the amount of cap brood that was in there when I went in after 7 days. She had already stopped like weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks ahead of time, because there was only about 5 cap cells in there. But she started right back, and I've got a video on there that's like 26 minutes long. But it's from when I found the tray, and then I cut into live where I saw the tray, and then I did the first inspection of what I saw in the brood box, which was just a little section of brood that she had just started laying eggs and larvae. And then I came back 6 days later, and I think it was 6 days, maybe a week. And yeah, cap brood. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 frames of brood eggs and larvae in there. So she just totally turned around. I really think that had I not done that on accident, he sent me a sleeve and I just put him in, not knowing what to expect. And had I not done that hive probably would have absconded, I feel like, because I've had that happen not once, but 8 times this year, absconds. And then the beetles and moths take over, and then it's just done. But that colony just totally spun on its head and responded to it. So really happy with it. It was a happy accident. So obviously Mamet would say it's not an accident, but we were joking about it when I showed everybody, oh, it looks like urinal cakes. We were calling them urinal cakes the whole time. And I had to apologize. I'm like, hey man, I've seen so many products that people say are nutritional supplements, and you really don't notice a noticeable difference, right? Like at this one, I 7 days, I could tell right away that it had flipped upside down.
If you haven't seen the video, Ian, you should really look at it because it's amazing how many mites are down. It's unreal.
And Randy Klingon said today that he shook a 0 on his mite check, and he's only had them in for a couple days, and 20 mites dropped in the bottom of his on his board. So, I mean, I found the same thing. I pulled that mite treatment that shall not be named that you're talking about out of the colony, and I literally took them out. They'd been in 6 weeks, put the tablet in, and left it alone. Came back, checked the bottom boards. Well, there's mite drop in the tray. So, I mean,
Ian, I had a problem,
Ian,
4 years ago with
do you
that process you were talking about and that you went through that caused the cascade of effects that you are seeing now. Excuse me. And I stopped, and so I went to the thymol treatment, and because of the heat that I'm in, I cut it down in 3 doses instead of 2 doses. I do 3, sometimes I do 4. But my point is this: I saw a bad downturn in efficacy from that product, and that was enough for me to say this is not consistent anymore. Where I was using it, a couple years before that. I'm now on an organic farm, so I don't use it anyway. But another thing to remember, and everybody can relate to this, that people nowadays must know people that are getting they're allergic to things that they were never allergic to before the pandemic. So things have happened in the supply chain. So maybe this supplier is getting bad plastic. Maybe there's a different ingredient in what their main ingredient uses to help spread through their product or the medium that they use. So people have to realize that things have changed, that you don't get red dye number 5 or whatever anymore because it's red dye number 5.1 or something, and that might be the case that you're seeing now. I don't know. But for me, it was a product that just wasn't consistent anymore. And I did that 2 years before you. And I remember you having discussions saying, yeah, everything's good, treatment's good, stuff is doing what it does. And then the next year after that, you started seeing, I remember a comment you said about it wasn't as consistent as you had seen it in the past. And then now obviously that's what's happening. But I don't know, just my 2 cents.
I definitely seen that. I definitely seen that inconsistency with that product, except for this year. I'm counting zeros. I'm using the same damn product. Well, it's not the same product. They tell me it's exactly the same plastic. It's exactly the same formulation. It's exactly the same manufacturing process, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. There's something different about this new product they brought out that, and I'm hearing this from other beekeepers too. They're the same thing you're saying. Like inconsistency is not there. Then all of a sudden we use this new. To me, the plastic's different. They pack it in 60 pack. It's easy to tear. Something's different about it, and I have no mites.
And did you
Keepers are finding no
yeah.
mites.
Did you notice that the strip, it was sort of rubbery, it was real flimsy. It wasn't stiff like the old ones.
Yeah, you notice that too. I'm trying to find an old strip here, and I can't find. I must have burnt all the old ones, but it's noticeably different. There's something different about it, and they say nope, it's the same plastic, the same everything. We just perforated it differently, so it's easy to tear.
If
I
they
think
said
that's
that,
bullshit.
they'd have
I think
to admit culpability.
Exactly. I think there's.
Well, remember
Bob
Binney talked about this in a video a year or so ago. Some friends of his, they flat out and said it was a bad batch, and of course the manufacturers said, "Oh no," but it was a bad batch. It did not do anything for killing.
They actually come out.
And if they admitted they changed it, they'd have to go through the whole approval process again. That would take a year or more.
Decades.
or more. It costs money because they're multinational, right? This is just it's a massive.
Just for Canada, I mean, they'd have to take a couple of years at least if they admitted that they changed it. That's not the same plastic.
I'll just put a caveat on what I'm saying here is like, I'm a beekeeper, I'm a farmer, I could be talking out my ass, right? I don't know what I'm just relaying what other beekeepers are telling me.
You and eight others here.
And what they're saying and what I'm seeing and what I saw before, nothing is adding up. So something is fishy there. All I know is I felt this last year I didn't have a lot of options, so I put that same damn product in my colonies again for, and I'm not counting any mites. And that's the new product they just put out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, do you think you're wintering
Second
inside?
So Doug is trying to jump in there. You're on a delay.
Sorry,
again,
Ian, you're wintering inside. Do you think that had anything to do with some of your losses?
There's a good point too. It's the catch between the two. Which is more beneficial one year and more beneficial the next? Some years, when I used to winter out, I'll put it this way, Doug. When I used to winter outside, I'd see variability. I'd have really good winters, and then I'd just be scraping dead outs all spring because of losses. Ever since I started wintering my colonies inside, I started in doubles, and then I took it to singles. Everything's in singles now, and even nukes. Ever since I did that, my losses generally, except for my mite losses, my losses are in really good shape. I come out in 5, 10, 15% losses routinely until something else hits me on the side of the head in the spring. That's my experience anyways. Last year, I think, or what were we saying, Brad? We were talking, was it last year or the year before? Maybe we thought it would have been more beneficial to be wintering outside because they would have had more opportunity to fly at a certain time. And
we have that conversation every warm spring for sure. But in 2022, I think it would have been better because they would have been wrapped for that April from hell, right?
They would have been wrapped up, yeah. What did you find, Doug? You winter outside. How did you make it through winter last? I think I'm working on a delay. Sorry, guys. Might have to hop off if it gets too bad. But Doug, what did you find last spring? You winter outside.
Well, our management is much the same as yours, other than we winter outside. Last winter, our losses were the best we've ever had. We run 7%. Now, there was one yard that was bad with nosema. If it hadn't have been for that yard, we'd have probably been half that. So I'm wondering, like, if you're wintering indoors, is that nosema, is it affecting everything in the building or?
I don't know if there'd be spread in the building or not. like confining them, not getting an opportunity to take that early flight, I think that's beneficial for those bees, just to rid some of that. So that's my disadvantage there.
Yeah.
I don't have the scales you guys do, but I wintered outside last year and they came out real good. Out of 13 hive, 12 survived. One was weak and I killed it by accident, but 12, 11 out of 13, sorry, survived no problem.
The speaking of
And Doug,
percentages,
like my neighbor Mark Friesen, he winters outside, 1,200 colonies. His dad used to manage in doubles, and then Mark took over the business. Now he's managing in singles. So he's wintering outside in singles, and he wraps up. His and my management are really, really close to each other, pretty much doing the same thing, same kind of treatment regime and everything like that. And he seems to his losses, except for these last 2 years, has just been a completely clusterfuck. But the typically our losses are very reflective of each other. It doesn't seem to matter. Like we're generally the same. But the reason why I winter inside is more so because of preference, because I'm busy with other places on the farm, and the bees sometimes take a back seat after all the necessary work gets done. So I was finding myself wrapping up colonies when it was snowing and raining, and I was frozen fingers trying to wrap up these colonies, and just terrible work. And then unwrapping these colonies in the spring and full of mouse piss, and just all this wrap I'd have to put into a storage shed and control the mice in the shed, and it's just it was an aspect that I hated. So in my operation, whenever I find something I hate, I identify it and I work to solve that.
and
And
you give it to Gary to do.
my solution was to move. I'll tell her you said that. But my solution was to move the colonies inside because it was less work for me, and I was able to manage that schedule a little bit easier. And I'm a little bit of a control freak. I'm like to micromanage just a little bit, and it allowed me to maybe manage the bees just a certain aspect more than just leaving them outside. So those are kind of my reasons for moving inside.
That's a really good point. A lot of times people look at indoor wintering and they say, "Wow, if I could just put my bees indoors, I wouldn't lose any bees or something." The difference in mortality is statistically insignificant between indoor and outdoor wintering. It's not about the bees. Now, I'm not saying that in certain conditions that might not make a difference year to year. Perhaps you get a really early warm spring, you want your bees out taking those cleansing flights, or you get a really late cold crazy spring like 2022, and all your indoor wintered bees are outdoors with no wraps, and they're getting 3 Colorado lows in a row, and and it's just terrible. So there are differences that way. Probably, I would say the biggest differences are exactly in April, but overall, the statistics don't support there being any difference in mortality indoor to outdoor. It's me. I'm the reason I winter indoors, not the bees.
You guys
Some of
are
the beekeepers in the States, they contact me, or sorry, I stepped on you guys again. Or I'll just quickly say
Okay.
this. Some beekeepers contact me. They want to winter indoors. And they say, Ian, what do we got to do? I have this fruit cooler. I can move my bees inside. And actually, the one guy was from Florida. His thinking was to shut his bees down to have like an artificial winter, to shut them down, become broodless, so then he can take them outside and vape them with oxalic acid and kill all the mites, which is good. It's a strategy that beekeepers are adopting in California, actually, but it's a learning curve. For us to winter bee successfully up here, we need mite counts almost 1%. Otherwise, we run into a lot of trouble. Beekeepers down in Florida, it seems that they're seeing they're managing 5% mite loads, sometimes 10%, and they're always treating to knock them down. So they put these colonies inside a winter shed with a 10% mite load, and they die because the mites on the bees within the shed are killing the bees, or killing the longevity of those bees. So then they're pulling out dead colonies. They're like, "What's going on?" And it was like, was probably because you put colonies into the shed that had too high of a mite load, so they're dead going in, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is indoor wintering is not going to fix a problem. It's just going to amplify that problem even worse. Is what I'm trying to say there.
I was
Yeah.
just going to
We've
say
got
that.
one yard.
Oh, go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
We've got one yard that we've got all double styrofoams in, and this is the second year for it. And kind of the idea behind that, yeah, is the workload. We don't, if they work, we don't have to wrap. It cuts down on it.
Yeah.
Now, this spring, that yard is the one that had nosema bad. Now, did these hives contribute to that or not? We don't know. We'll find out again this year. But it would be nice to be able to winter in double styrofoam. Then we would try to go to singles in it, because then you're cutting down on a lot of expense when it comes to medication and management of the hive.
That's for sure.
Well, one good thing, speaking of expense with the tablet, if you're ordering by the case, they're less than half than treating with apple. I mean, the other treatment that we were talking about earlier.
Of course, it's not a treatment, though.
Yeah, it's not a treatment, but they're less than half than that other item. We'll say that.
That's interesting, Doug. That 1 yard, particularly that 1 yard that was in the styrofoam, was higher in nosema. That's an interesting observation. I wonder why. I wonder if you see that repeat itself, we should almost investigate into that, because that's an interesting observation.
I'm wondering if they keep more humidity inside, more moisture. Would that contribute to it? Maybe. But,
are you running the bottoms
we'll watch
open,
again
Doug?
next spring and see. They've got an upper entrance and the bottom is reduced.
So they've got a screen bottom in those. So do you run them with the closer in, or do you run them open?
No, not a screen. No, it's not a screen.
Oh
bottom
yeah,
board.
that's
We
not
just
the
reduced
paradise
the
one.
opening down.
I'm thinking that's a paradise box. Sorry.
So what kind of, is that a license
no.
hive or what?
No, it's a company in Edmonton, Alberta, make them.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of that one. Colin ran those paradise boxes. He ran doubles outdoors. Same thing, no wraps, anything all winter, but his bottoms were wide open. They all come default with a screen bottom, and he ran them all winter wide open. So that might speak to your moisture issue.
Does your bottoms, I make like my license 6-frame, it has holes in it, where they have screens, but you can take the plugs out. Can you ventilate that way with that type of box that you have?
No, my bottoms are the same as Brad's.
Okay. Are they solid, Brad? Completely solid?
Yeah.
Well, my wooden ones are, yeah.
No,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But the paradise ones, the paradise polystyrenes are a screen bottom. So, like I say, when Colin was running those, and he had losses too. It wasn't a panacea, but he would run them wide open all winter. I know that, and he was happy with the results.
Now, the thing I was going to talk about was weather-wise. I still track the long range specifically this year because of El Nino, and I'm supposed to get as much wet weather as I did last year. But an interesting thing they said in Canada, the middle portion of Canada, there's supposedly it's going to angle down towards a warmer cloud of air. Supposedly it's going to angle down towards North Dakota, South Dakota, but it'll be you forgive my lack of province knowledge, but just that those center provinces up in Canada, it's supposedly going to be a warmer winter for you guys. So I don't know what that means. If it's not minus 15, maybe it's 4. I have no idea, but
it means more mice next summer. That's what it means.
Yeah, I can't believe it's going to be a warm winter. It's the last 3 days have been close to 30 C over here in Quebec.
Well,
average is 10.
this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at right now, long range being December, January. So what the weather service
supposed to
down
see-
here is calling for is wet and cold weather along the southern U.S. from basically middle of California south, all and a swath through Arizona, all the way into Texas. So what that means is there's that curve in the atmosphere, or a bubble per se, that's coming down from Canada, which is warmer air. So that's why the wet weather is going to be pushed down into the the bottom half of California and along the southern states. So right now that's what they're saying, and that's in December, January. Obviously it could change, but they're being consistent about it. So that's what's kind of keying me in and thinking, this is probably going to happen again. So
We're
With
supposed
that-
to see snow here tonight, Todd.
oh really?
Yikes.
Yeah.
No, not here. It's hot.
Way too early for that.
Well, guys,
Yeah.
we've been going
Summertime temperatures next week.
We've been going 2.5 hours tonight. And,
Can't hear you, Ian.
I think I'm going to shut down the live stream and let the hijinks begin in the back room. So we'll see you guys on Charlie's channel tomorrow night for Sawmill Charlie's live stream at 8 o'clock still, Charlie, tomorrow?
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Cheesecake Charlie.
Cheesecake Charlie on my stream. He goes back to Sawmill Charlie tomorrow night. So, all right, guys, we'll see you all later. Thanks, Earl. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you. And we'll talk to you guys again next time. Thanks.
See you.